We have some special guests here today from the ASEAN embassies. And so Professor Leblanc is about to introduce our panel. So I hope everyone enjoys the presentation. This should enrich our knowledge and discussion of Asia for the purposes of the roundtable and at the university. And so over to...
Maybe I should just say who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm Susan Gregson. I'm a senior fellow here at University of Ottawa.
So, thank you, Susan. Bonjour à tous. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the ambassadors and their colleagues from the other Asian ASEAN nations here to talk to you about ASEAN. We're very privileged to have a very exclusive group to come and talk to us about ASEAN. It's a grouping that we hear about, but we don't necessarily know very well. So here they're going to talk to us about where is ASEAN, what is ASEAN, what are the issues that they're dealing with, their priorities. So it's really a great opportunity to have the ambassadors here with us to talk to you and talk to us about ASEAN, and also to answer your questions that you may have with regards to this very important grouping, economically, politically, in Asia. So we will have, to begin with, I will introduce the ambassadors very quickly. We will intervene today, and there will be also a video. So for students who like a little bit more interaction and electronics, so there will be a little video of ASEAN, what is ASEAN, so also it gives you a So today we're very fortunate to have with us 4 ambassadors. I have to say to the students that this is one of the great opportunities of being here in Ottawa, because they come here and in a very informal setting to talk to us. If you go to Toronto or you go to Montreal, when I was teaching in Montreal, when they invite ambassadors, they organize these big lunches, luncheons where you have to pay $80, $100, which of course most of you and some of us may not have the money to do so. So it's actually a great privilege, and I think it's important to recognize that fact. That in other parts of the country, people pay a lot of money to listen to these people. We have them for free. So we're, again, very grateful and thankful for your presence. So first, we have the Ambassador Tut from Myanmar, who is here with us. We have Ambassador Garcia from the Philippines. And then we have Ambassador Vijavat, who is with us. And finally, who is from Thailand, the embassy, the ambassador to Thailand, and Ambassador Faizasya from Indonesia. So these are the 4 ambassadors that we have with us who have kindly accepted to speak to you. And we have 3 chargés who are here to represent their countries. I don't know if they... Yes, if you could introduce yourselves. The reason why they're here and not the ambassadors is because their ambassadors are traveling, so we're very happy that they've accepted also to be here and to maybe participate in the discussion afterwards. Okay?
So maybe Vietnam.
Yeah, very quickly.
Well, greetings everyone. My name is Son and I'm Deputy Chief Mission of Vietnam in Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Supri. I'm representing my High Commissioner of Brunei Darussalam. He's currently in Toronto. Unfortunately, he has a Canada ASEAN Business Council event happening there. The Canadian ambassador to ASEAN is currently in Toronto. They have an event happening.
Very good afternoon. My apologies to my High Commissioner is unable to attend today's session. She's on leave because of family being found. I'm Zulkifli Abdullah, Deputy Minister Council, High Commission of Malaysia. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, should we start with the...
So without further ado, perhaps we could ask Ambassador Tut to start.
Thank you, Professor Patrick, and Madam Susan, and students here and all the participants. My name is George. Actually, my name is George. George. I'm Ambassador of Myanmar to Canada, and I've been relatively new here since I've been here in September, so it's like 5 months in Ottawa. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be here with us, for us to be here with you at this prestigious University of Ottawa to talk about the ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is called ASEAN. So I, as currently am a chair of the ASEAN Committee in Washington, I'll be giving an introduction on ASEAN, and after that my colleagues here will follow with the interesting topics on how ASEAN is moving forward. Actually, ASEAN is a regional organization. It's now composed of 10 Southeast Asian countries. The ASEAN was first established in Bangkok, Thailand on 8 August 1967 by signing the Bangkok Declaration by the 5 founding members, namely Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Later, Brunei Jerusalem joined the association in 1984, Vietnam in 1995, Laos and PDR and Myanmar in 1997, and Cambodia in 1999. As being an organization, ASEAN has its secretariat in Jakarta, Indonesia. It was actually set up to promote cultural, economic, and political development in the region, and this year marks the 50th anniversary of the association in the international arena. The Secretary General of ASEAN is appointed by the ASEAN Summit for a non-renewable term of office of 5 years, selected from among nationals of the ASEAN members states based on alphabetical notation. The Secretary General of ASEAN currently is from Vietnam. It's from 2013 to 2017, and he is His Excellency Lee Long-min, and is currently as a Secretary General of ASEAN. And we have assisted by 4 Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN. Geopolitically, ASEAN region is very strategic, which bridge between the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, sharing land borders with India, China, Bangladesh, and East Timor, and maritime borders with India, China, and Australia. And it is an important sea lanes of international trade. The whole ASEAN region covers land area of 4.4 million square kilometers, which is 3% of the total land area of the world. The combined population of the region is approximately 625 million people, which is 8.8% of the world's population. And in 2015, the combined nominal GDP of 10 ASEAN member states grew to more than $2.8 trillion US. And if ASEAN is considered as a single entity, it would rank as the 6th largest economy in the world, behind US, China, Japan, Germany, and the UK. One thing to bear in mind is that ASEAN is not a military alliance. The signatories of the ASEAN Declaration, the association founding document, were carefully to stress that ASEAN was not a military alliance. As set out in the ASEAN Declaration, the aims and purpose of ASEAN, among others, are to accelerate economic growth, social progress, cultural development, to promote regional peace and stability, as well as to improve active collaboration and cooperation. With this motto, one vision, one identity, one community, ASEAN today is turning into ASEAN community. ASEAN leaders at the 13th ASEAN Summit in Singapore in 2007 signed the ASEAN Charter, which is a constituent instrument of ASEAN, and it serves as a firm foundation for achieving the ASEAN community by providing legal status and institutional framework for ASEAN. The Charter entered into force on 15 December 2008, and it has become a legally binding agreement among the 10 ASEAN nations, member states. ASEAN is working towards a community that is politically cohesive, economically integrated, and socially responsible. ASEAN leaders initially planned to form the ASEAN community by 2020, but they later accelerated its implementation to 31st December 2015. And this decision was made during the 12th ASEAN Summit in 2007. And as targeted, ASEAN was proclaimed a community on 31st December 2015 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Succeeding the roadmap for an ASEAN community 2009-2015, an important outcome document called ASEAN 2025, Forging Ahead Together, was endorsed by the ASEAN leaders. This document seeks to chart the path for ASEAN community building over the next 10 years. The ASEAN community is supported by three key pillars, which is political, security, economy, and socio-cultural. These are the areas of integration sought by ASEAN as a community. With persistence, patience, and confidence, ASEAN was proclaimed a community through a declaration signed by ASEAN leaders at the 27th Summit in Kuala Lumpur on 22nd November 2015. This is a historic development and an important milestone in the evolution of ASEAN since its inception in 1967. Since community building is an ongoing process, relevant programs and activities shall continue to be implemented. With regard to external relations of ASEAN, it develops friendly relations and mutually beneficial dialogue, cooperation, and partnership with countries and sub-regional and international organizations and institutions since 1970s. In conducting external relations, the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting may confer on an external party the formal status of dialogue partner, sectoral dialogue partner, development partner, special observers, and guest or other status. ASEAN continues to develop cooperative relations with its dialogue partners on various areas of mutual interest. And ASEAN currently has 10 dialogue partners, namely Australia, Canada, China, the European Union, India, Japan, Republic of Korea, New Zealand, the Russian Federation, the United States of America, and the United Nations. And Pakistan, Switzerland, Germany, and Norway are sectoral dialogue partners of ASEAN. And ASEAN has external relations with ASEAN +1 and ASEAN +3 mechanisms. ASEAN +3 means that ASEAN relations with China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. First meeting of ASEAN +3 was convened in 1997. ASEAN +3 summit held back-to-back with ASEAN Summit and Europe. To support the conduct of ASEAN's external relations, ASEAN has established 42 ASEAN committees in 30 countries to further contribute to raise ASEAN awareness and its profile. Like we have here in Ottawa, which we have consists of 7 ASEAN countries, which are stationed in Canada, which we have like in here with ASEAN Committee in Ottawa. Moreover, 78 non-ASEAN member states and organizations have accredited their ambassadors to ASEAN. Like other organizations, ASEAN has both opportunities and challenges. There's a substantial list of opportunities associated with ASEAN economic community integration. Economic integration will bring opportunities to boost economic stability in the region, and it would turn ASEAN into a more competitive region within the world economy. A stronger regional economy will help improve the living standards of the ASEAN population by reducing poverty through economic development. And ASEAN member countries expect to achieve greater economic cooperation in the areas of financial policies, trade, and human capital. The ASEAN region could potentially become a highly competitive economic union operating as a single entity. Following the establishment of ASEAN community, there are critical years ahead for the ASEAN as it kickstarts the implementation of the 3 new community blueprints and other relevant agenda. The success will depend on timely and effective implementations of the various framework, action lines, integration initiatives, and plans, as well as effective cross-pillars and cross-sectoral consultation and coordination mechanisms. The human dimension of ASEAN cooperation plays a role to bring the ASEAN processes closer to the people to ensure they will benefit from a real people-oriented, people-centered ASEAN community is even more critical. Several socio-cultural initiatives ranging from culture, education, environment, and youth could also be strategic approaches to bring ASEAN closer to the people. While ASEAN continues to enjoy relative peace and stability in the context of the increasingly complex geostrategic landscape, especially with the South China Sea issue, which is a test to the credibility of ASEAN-led norms and mechanisms. More than ever, ASEAN continues to play a central and leading role in the evolving regional architecture and position itself strategically against the changing relations between and among major powers. ASEAN needs to demonstrate and assert its certain centrality in both international and external dimensions to maintain its credibility, unity, and cohesiveness. With the most diverse membership, ASEAN's relevance and perpetuity can only be ensured if it is able to project common positions on critical regional and international issues that directly impact the region and its collective long-term interests. So to conclude, let me say a few things that Myanmar participation in ASEAN. In the year 2014 was an exciting year for Myanmar, as Myanmar took the rotating chair of ASEAN for the first time after joining ASEAN in 17 years. With its foreign policy objectives stipulated in the Constitution, Myanmar successfully implemented the responsibilities of ASEAN chair. Myanmar set the theme for 2014 ASEAN chairmanship as a moving forward in unity to a peaceful and prosperous community. So now is the year 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of ASEAN Foundation. The commemorative activities will be undertaken in all ASEAN member states, and the Philippines is the ASEAN chairmanship for 2017. She will arrange for a grand ceremony for the anniversary, and all ASEAN member states will celebrate 50-year anniversary. It also coincides with the 40th anniversary of dialogue partner relation with ASEAN and Canada. At the 5th Joint Cooperation Committee meeting between ASEAN and Canada at the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta on 6 March 2017, reaffirming their commitment to further strengthen adjacent areas of cooperation and collaborate on potential mutually beneficial opportunities and initiatives. At the meeting, the Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Philippines to ASEAN, and Country Coordinator of ASEAN-Canada Dialogue Relation, Ambassador Elizabeth. Elizabeth? You want to emphasize that ASEAN and Canada celebrate 40 years of dialogue relations. Since this year, both sides should recognize the enormous potential of further solidifying this partnership because they are strategically important to each other. And Ambassador Mary Louise Hannan, Canada's first dedicated permanent representative to ASEAN, also emphasized that Canada and ASEAN took an important step toward deepening cooperation on areas of mutual interest. Canada looks forward to working with ASEAN as we celebrate 40 years of dialogue relations in 2017. So that is my introduction to ASEAN, and thank you very much for your patience.
So, we will now Ambassador Garcia.
Yes.
Would like to the floor and talk about Philippines chairmanship of ASEAN 2017 and of course the 40th anniversary commemoration.
Thank you, Professor LeBlanc. Thank you, former Assistant Deputy Minister, Assistant President, for giving us this opportunity to present ASEAN to the University of Ottawa. As one of the 5 founding members of ASEAN, the Philippines is always at the forefront of pushing for what's best for the region and its people. ASEAN is the fulcrum in which the current regional stability and the current regional security architecture balances. ASEAN has been performing this function credibly, owing to years of success in espousing cooperation and cultivating peace and stability through the ASEAN way, its peaceful and non-confrontational approach in resolving differences. The Philippines is active in all three pillars of ASEAN, in the political, security, economic, and social-cultural communities. All three communities are equally important to us to attain ASEAN's vision of 2025 of a rules-based, people-oriented, and people-centered community with shared prosperity where our people enjoy fundamental rights and freedoms and a higher quality of life. On January 1, 2017, the Philippines officially assumed the chairmanship of ASEAN. Our chairmanship coincides with the 50th anniversary of the association. This milestone event is an occasion for ASEAN to reflect on its success and achievements during the last 50 years and to prepare itself for the new challenges ahead in the region. During its chairmanship, the Philippines will be guided by the theme, Partnering for Change, Engaging the World. The theme speaks of our aspiration to work more closely in effecting positive change in the lives of the people of ASEAN, together with our ASEAN brothers, external partners, and others who share the same vision of peace, security, prosperity, and progress for the region and our global community. It is reflective of the country's advocacy to promote cooperation with and among neighbors and ASEAN dialogue partners and invite them to become dynamic and vibrant partners. As ASEAN chair, the Philippines will be guided by thematic priorities, namely, 1, a people-oriented and people-centered ASEAN, which means the ASEAN community puts its citizens' welfare at the center of its priorities. The community protects the rights and recognizes that their well-being is key to the progress of the region. 2, peace and stability in the region. The ASEAN community upholds peaceful coexistence and regional partnership among its member states. 3, maritime and security cooperation. The ASEAN community adheres to the rule of law for the peaceful resolution of disputes and the preservation and protection of maritime resources. 4, inclusive innovation-led growth. The ASEAN community provides opportunities for business growth to improve regional capacity in responding to the demands of the global economy. 5, ASEAN resiliency. The ASEAN community cultivates a sustainable region that is prepared and responsive to disasters. 6, ASEAN, a model of regionalism and a global player. The ASEAN community aims to showcase its various capacities as a global player in the international arena. To effectively carry out its priorities and that of ASEAN, the Philippines will be hosting more than 100 meetings during the year, spread out, I'm sure Assistant Deputy Minister Gregson remembers her time in APEC on that. Spread out to 12 select cities in the country. Included in the meetings are the 2 summits, the first in April and the second in November, as well as 15 ministerial meetings and 31 senior officials meetings. With 2017 being the 50th anniversary of the founding of ASEAN, the Philippines will also organize commemorative activities to celebrate this milestone. Activities in support of the Philippine chairmanship and the golden anniversary of ASEAN will also be undertaken by the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa and other members of the ASEAN Committee in Ottawa. During the national launch of the Philippine chairmanship, we also unveiled 3 things: the commemorative coins for the Philippine chairmanship of ASEAN, commemorative stamps for the Philippine chairmanship of ASEAN, and 3, the Philippine chairmanship theme song, ASEAN Spirit. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte delivered the keynote speech of the launch and mentioned that the work involved in the Philippines ASEAN chairmanship is a tremendous task, but one that is not unachievable. Its success will be defined by the collective work of the Philippines and the ASEAN member states. The President also underscored that the Philippines, as ASEAN chair, will remain steadfast in upholding the ideals and values that we hold dear, and in working for the realization of our shared aspirations. The 2 pillars of ASEAN, the ASEAN Economic Community and the ASEAN Social-Cultural Community, also held the launch of the Philippine chairmanship for their respective pillars. The Philippines Department of Trade and Industry led the launch of the ASEAN 2017 Business and Investment Program on January 24 at Malacanang Palace in Manila, while the Department of Social Welfare and Development led the ASEAN Social-Cultural Community Pillar launch on the same day in Angeles, in Pampanga. As ASEAN looks forward to celebrating the 50th anniversary, its past and present successes make it fully equipped, not only to effectively respond to challenges, but to prosper and come out stronger as a community. In 2017, the Philippines is prepared to steer it towards this direction. This year also marks the 40th anniversary of ASEAN-Canada dialogue relations, and I'm happy to enumerate some of our commemorative activities to mark this important milestone. I wish to note that the dialogue relations were established in February 1977, and as Canada celebrates its 150th anniversary this year, ASEAN marks its golden anniversary as well as the 40th anniversary of ASEAN-Canada relations. The Philippines, as 2017 ASEAN chair, welcomes the statement given by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of ASEAN-Canada dialogue relations. We are pleased to inform you that the Philippines also recently released the ASEAN statement on this milestone year. The statement traces the origins of ASEAN-Canada dialogue relations, noting developments that have been achieved in all 3 ASEAN community pillars, namely political security community, economic community, and social-cultural community. The statement mentions ASEAN and Canada's commitment to addressing common traditional and non-traditional challenges, upholding international law, and maintaining peace and security in the region. It is noted that the steady growth of economic links between ASEAN and Canada and continued engagement on social cultural matters, including disaster management, climate change, health and pandemics, education, youth, culture, people-to-people exchange, and human rights of migrant workers, women, and children. ASEAN welcomed Canada's hosting of the 14th ASEAN-Canada Dialogue in May this year. It will be held in Ottawa, and we express our confidence that Canada will continue to be a reliable and constructive partner in supporting ASEAN centrality and realizing ASEAN's Community Vision 2025 and its blueprints. The ASEAN Committee in Ottawa will also be participating in the Conference on Southeast Asia to be organized by Global Affairs Canada in light of the 40th anniversary of dialogue relations. The conference will be held this May in GAC. Before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to show you 2 videos. One on the Philippines chairmanship of ASEAN 2017 and another on ASEAN at 50 years. Thank you very much, and mabuhay.
As one of the founding members of the ASEAN, the Philippines has always been part of this evolving community that continues to grow and adapt to the changing times together. The Philippines has witnessed both the successes and challenges that were faced and overcome by the region over the years. This perspective gives us great confidence that whatever the future holds, our shared values and goals will continue to bring us together to work for our shared benefit. As we celebrate our joint successes in the last 50 years, we look with renewed excitement to the future as we all work hand in hand as partners for change. Change for the many and not just a few. Change that will bring out the best in our people. Together, we will nurture our community and engage the world with a unified voice, singular action, and an affirmed pursuit towards peace, security, stability, prosperity, and integrated development. One rules-based, people-oriented, people-centered community brought together by the desire to build a better future for ourselves and for our children in a region that we are proud to call our own. As the Philippines assumes chairmanship on ASEAN's 50th year, we celebrate this unity that has fostered positive change and development. As the past has united us, it is our promised future that will make us stronger. We are one ASEAN, partnering for change, engaging the world.
In 2017, we, the Filipinos, are proud to welcome you to 7,107 islands of beauty, wonder and fun that will make a year of memories last a lifetime. Mabuhay ang ASEAN. Salamat.
ASEAN. A tropical vista of natural wonders. A habitat for countless flora and fauna. Home to over 650 million people. A kingdom steeped in culture and tradition. Offering exquisite culinary flavors. 10 magnificent countries. Playground of adventure and unparalleled beauty. Where will your adventure begin?
Would you like to speak to us about ASEAN free trade? Okay.
Thank you to Professor LeBlanc and to Ambassador Gregson for this opportunity to talk about ASEAN. I think the Ambassador of Myanmar and the Ambassador of the Philippines have given an excellent comprehensive overview already about ASEAN, what it has been doing in the past, what it is doing into the future. So I'm just part of the supporting staff to talk a bit about economic integration in ASEAN. And as the Ambassador of Myanmar has mentioned, there have been many important milestones in ASEAN's 50-year history. One of the most important ones came in 2003 in the form of a leaders' declaration called the Bali Concord II, signed in Indonesia, which agreed that an ASEAN community shall be established comprising 3 pillars, which Ambassador of Myanmar has mentioned: political security, economic cooperation, and social cultural cooperation. After that, in 2007, at the 12th ASEAN Summit in the Philippines, it was agreed that steps would be taken to accelerate the establishment of an ASEAN community by 2015. So we don't have time to discuss all 3 pillars of ASEAN, but I'd like to say just a few words on the economic pillar, which I think is of special interest to the Canadian audience, since you're such an important free trading country. In line with the commitment of the ASEAN leaders in 2007, all 3 ASEAN communities were established at the end of 2015. But perhaps the one that received the most attention was the ASEAN Economic Community, or the AEC. Basically, the AEC aims to allow the free flow of goods, services, investments, skilled labor, and also the freer movement of capital across the region. The goal was to increase competitiveness, promote equitable economic development, and further integrate ASEAN with the global economy. Now, why is the AEC so important? I'd like to cite a few statistics, some of which the Ambassador of Myanmar has mentioned. As a combined group, the ASEAN Economic Community comprises a single market, a single production base of over 620 million people. It comprises a combined GDP of over 2.6 trillion or 2.8 trillion US dollars. So this is the third largest consumer market in the world. With over 620 million people, the ASEAN market is larger than the European Union. It's larger than all of North America. Of course, our GDP, our spending power is less than in the West, but it's a very large and growing middle class that has much more consuming power. 620 million people also represents the world's third largest labor force, which is still very young, very productive. So it's a good opportunity for Canadian and Western companies to invest in the region and take use of the large labor force. As the Ambassador of Myanmar has mentioned, if ASEAN were one economy, it would be the 6th largest economy in the world. It used to be the 7th largest, and I believe we overtook France some time ago. And by 2050, ASEAN is projected to become the 4th largest economy in the world. As a group, ASEAN represents one of the fastest growing and most open economic regions in the world, with our total merchandise exports accounting for some 7% of global exports. And it's noteworthy that the region's GDP has nearly doubled from 2007 to 2014. So that shows the very rapid growth rates in ASEAN. Now, Ambassador Gregson had mentioned that you're interested in free trade. So I would like to say that ASEAN as a whole is very much pro-free trade, since trading and exports are an important part of our economies. In this regard, we had established a free trade area among the 10 ASEAN countries back in 1992, known as AFTA, the ASEAN Free Trade Area. So the aim was to reduce import tariffs among ASEAN members, lower trade barriers, and facilitate trade and investment. Now, in addition to the free trade area among our 10 countries, ASEAN as a grouping also entered into separate free trade agreements with many of our trading partners, with our dialogue partners, 6 in total. So we have an ASEAN free trade agreement with China, with Japan, with South Korea, India, Australia, and New Zealand. We do not yet have a free trade agreement with Canada, with the US, with the EU, or with Russia. But there have been talks about the possibility of free trade with Canada. Now, since we have free trade agreements with these 6 dialogue partners, it was decided that we should bring this another step further by possibly having a free trade area among all these countries. So among the 10 ASEAN members and the 6 countries with whom we have free trade agreements. So as a result, all 16 countries have come together to negotiate what is known as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, RCEP, which is a larger FTA of 16 countries. Together, if realized, the RCEP, RCEP, would comprise a market of 3.4 billion people, which is almost half of the world's population. It would comprise a combined GDP of around 21 trillion US dollars, which is about 30% of the global GDP, and it would account for around 30% of world trade. So this is a very appealing grouping if it could be realized. The GDP would actually be even larger than that of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which still has been signed, but there's still discussions about ratifying. The idea of RCEP was first introduced in November 2011 during the 19th ASEAN Summit in Indonesia. And then the negotiations were formally launched in 2012 at the ASEAN Summit in Phnom Penh. The idea was launched in 2012. Negotiations began in 2013 at the ministerial levels. And the talks covered a wide range of areas, including trade in goods, trade in services, investment, economic and technical cooperation, intellectual property, dispute settlement, e-commerce, SMEs, and many other things. Initially, the target was to conclude the RCEP agreement by 2015. But the talks were perhaps more difficult than expected. And so the target date was extended to 2016. It's now 2017, of course, and it hasn't been concluded yet, but 16 rounds of negotiations have already been held as of the end of 2016. Progress has been made with each round. But at the joint leaders statement in September 2016, the ASEP leaders noted that further progress had been made in negotiating the ASEP agreement, but considerable work lies ahead due to the complexities of the negotiations. So this time, no new deadline was set, other than to aim for the swift conclusion of the negotiation. So that's basically where we stand right now. There will be meetings, talks on ASEP throughout the year, and we still hope that perhaps by the end of the year, some kind of agreement could be reached, which if the TPP is realized or not realized, I think ASEP would also be a very attractive, very appealing grouping, which would help to promote trade, global trade as a whole. So that's all I have to contribute.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Okay, time for questions. Anyone has a question? Yes. Good.
Can
you
you
please just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Samuel. I'm a student in International and Public Affairs here at the University of Ottawa. And thank you very much, everybody, for the presentation. It was really interesting, really insightful. My question actually regards RCEP. I'd like to know your point of view, like if Canada eventually wants to join something similar as, like, wants to join RCEP. We were in the TPP, now the TPP is kind of gone almost. So do you think it will be something that the ASEAN country will be welcome to? And I read some critics regarding RCEP from Canadian, especially like on labor and environment. Do you think those critics are based on something, or do you think they could easily be overcome? Thank you very much.
I'll start off, since I have brought up the issue of ASEP, but I welcome support from my colleagues. ASEP is not intended to be, a closed grouping, of course. It's meant to be open, and the more partners, the better. We only started with ASEP because these are the countries that ASEAN already has free trade agreements with. And so it's easiest to start that way. But of course, if ASEP is concluded, we very much, I believe, I'm not an ASEAN leader, but I believe the leaders would welcome participation of important countries such as Canada, such as the US, and the EU and Russia. I did not read the criticism about the labor issues, but there are many issues in the talks, and the aim is to make ASEP a high quality, high standard regime or agreement. But of course, there are many different levels of development within ASEAN as a whole, not to mention ASEAN and the other countries in ASEAN. So all the talks have to take into consideration the sensitivities, the comfort level, the capabilities of the members as well. But everything is, I suppose, open to negotiations. Yes.
Thanks so much, Professor. Just to add to the explanation from my colleague, I think when we talk about the potential of the region, it's very clear from the presentation of my colleague just now. What we continue to encourage the Canadian to be engaged as well in the free trade area discussion. At the moment, what we have is trade policy dialogue between Canada and ASEAN, mainly to see in terms of trade policy on each side, how can we see the commonalities. But if you look at the history of ASEAN cooperation, it's a gradual process. So we always impress on our colleagues. It's always nice, it's always good for the interest of our partners to be part as the early possible of the process. Because certainly, as mentioned by my colleague, there are certain different level of economic development within ASEAN, but it doesn't mean it will, perhaps for some of the partners, it will create frustration because it's a lengthy process of dialogue, but it's always nice to be engaged at the earliest possible. Certainly, we cannot cover all the trade issues when we discuss RCEP. The goal is also to incorporate the issue in investment within the discussion of RCEP to enable the ASEAN country benefit not only from trade aspect but also from the investment opportunities. But I think the gradual process of ASEAN is something that the psychology side of it that other countries, Western countries, need to understand. And our recommendation always to the colleague from the global affairs, just to engage more in terms of potential free trade area between ASEAN and China.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I think it's great that you're going for people-oriented economy. And on that subject, I was wondering if somebody could comment on your stance on climate change, ASEAN's stance on climate change, and in the next few years, building more resilient communities.
I think if you look, ASEAN is such a complex cooperation. Sometimes we are not in a good position to cover all the issues discussed. But if you look at the three pillars mentioned by our colleague, the political cooperation, economic, and socio-cultural, we try to incorporate all the development at the global level into ASEAN cooperation. For instance, in the case of socio-cultural cooperation, we try to mainstream the ASEAN cooperation in socio-cultural aspect with the global goals of Sustainable Development 2030. So always in the process, we try to incorporate all the development within the global issues. I can talk more about national commitment in terms of Indonesia toward the environment issues. We are among the first signatory to the Paris Agreement. But I think that all the countries in ASEAN are very much aware in the importance of environment in the context of national goals and regional aspirations. So the challenge is how to combine the national goals and the regional goal as one at the same pace. But certainly each country has their own commitment with regard to the Paris goal, for instance. But at the ASEAN level, the environmental issue also already incorporated. For instance, in the maritime cooperation, the issue of sustainability of the environment protection is mainstreaming already in the context of ASEAN cooperation. We also have the issues of forestry certifications within the context of ASEAN. So all these bits of elements of collective effort to contribute to the environmental issues are there in the projects and sectoral cooperation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to add something?
Yes. Well, if I may add to His Excellency's explanation, there's some statistics somewhere that says that more than 90% of the ASEAN's population lives just within 50 kilometers of the seaside, of shore. So ASEAN countries is very severely affected by climate change, especially the sea level rise and so on. And so the attitudes towards climate change is very serious within ASEAN. And within the cultural community of ASEAN, there is a long plan of action, which I am sure components of it deals with climate change.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else would like to? Oh,
Oh, thank you. So I'm Christina Cowett. I'm an intern at the European Union delegation to Canada right now and also a Canadian student. My question I think is going to be directed to the Ambassador of the Philippines. You just mentioned there was like 100 meetings happening this year in the Philippines, 2 summits, and then one of the pillars of the ASEAN countries is cultural social. So I'm wondering, and I'm sure my other young student colleagues are interested as well, are there any opportunities for young Canadians or students in general to be going to the ASEAN countries or the Philippines this year and future years to learn more about the countries and kind of the socio-cultural opportunities there? I'm just curious if there's any initiatives for this year in particular to celebrate the anniversary.
Thank you. Off the top of my head, I really don't know a particular program, but certainly in the context of the strengthening of Canada-ASEAN dialogue relations, perhaps we could look into that. We do have a lot of opportunity to go there on a track 2 basis. But certainly we will. I don't have it with me.
Sure.
I think with the videos that you showed, you certainly made people very interested in visiting your countries.
But we do have a program on a bilateral basis, of course, if I may mention. I can say that recently we had our joint commission on bilateral consultations, and we have some programs online to invite students to come to the Philippines to the Committee on Higher Education. I'm sure that the other countries in the region have similar programs that can be regarded.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add on the point presented by Ambassador of the Philippines. As far as Brunei is concerned, we do have scholarship programs available to Canadians. We offer up to 5 master level programs to come and study in our institutions. I mean, apart from going there and learning, it's also an opportunity for you to interact locally and to use Brunei as a place to visit other ASEAN cities. So it's every year, 5 scholarships, master level, and we try to be deliberate in where we send out this advertisements because we do realize that there's certain we're strong in certain aspects, like for example Southeast Asia studies and now Islamic studies. That's the area that we're strong in. So we advertise them through certain schools and certain avenues.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, please. I just wanted to add that there may be ASEAN programs that we don't know which welcome the youth, because we certainly see youth as the future generation. But bilaterally, I'm sure we all have something. I've been visiting a lot of Canadian universities around the country and have been impressed with the initiative shown by many. One recent visit was to Guelph University in Ontario, and they have a veterinary school there. And I went there and found that every year for the past maybe 20 years, veterinary students in the 2nd or 3rd year have been organizing trips to different parts of the world, to Africa, to Asia, and to Thailand. They've organized so that their students would go and spend 3 months in Chiang Mai or in Phuket or in some really terrific places. Live there, enjoy it, but also do work with elephant camps and tigers and many different animals. So it's something that I think is a great experience, not only applying your work, but also getting to see the rest of the world. Did you want to talk? We we were both in Washington, and Ambassador of Myanmar was whispering to me about an initiative by the Americans about 2 years ago, and we forget the acronym, but they started under President Obama a program that would bring American youth to Southeast Asia to spend some time there. And that would be something really good for the Canadian government to do, I think.
I'd also like to add, this year there's this program at McGill University. It's called Hot Cities. It's an MBA group. They came to the Philippines and they interacted with CEOs in the Philippines. And its programs like this, but again, it's bilateral.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dan Livermore. I used to be in the Canadian Foreign Ministry for much too long. And I see at least 3 people here who are students who will be in the ASEAN region as of about middle of May. So we do get the opportunity to travel, but we should be traveling much more. Could I ask a bit of a discordant note, though? Because the movement in Europe to create a free trade area and to make progress on building economies of scales and building stronger economies has hit a roadblock of essentially populism and a revolt by people who believe they've been left behind. That's also taken place in the United States for completely different reasons. In fact, anything that President Obama has done seems to be under attack in Washington these days. Is there any sign of resistance in the ASEAN region to stronger and stronger relations among the ASEAN community? And I know in the case of ASEAN, it's been carefully handled. The ASEAN way, which is a famous way of dialogue and discussion, has probably been more soothing as a way of managing conflict than the way that the Europeans have dealt with things. But is there any sign now that there's a limit to how far and to how fast you can proceed along this step? Okay.
I'll start off maybe. I think you raised a very good point, and you mentioned the ASEAN way, which many people are not too acquainted with, but which is a key word in ASEAN. It can be viewed positively or negatively. By those who view it negatively, the ASEAN way is sort of very slow and moving at a snail pace and at the comfort level of everyone. But for us, it's important, and it has been the secret to why we have been able to move together as a group for 50 years and have remained very close, very tight. And I don't believe there's any signs of Brexit in sight for ASEAN members. We started off sort of as a reverse from what the European Union did. The Europeans, they started off with, I believe, the Treaty of Rome, had an European Economic Community. You move so that you have a common parliament, virtually a common cabinet, common currency. 50 years already, and ASEAN has no thoughts about having a common currency or common parliament. We actually existed for 30 years with no constitution at all until in 2008 we finally signed an ASEAN Charter. So I think we've been moving at a level that is comfortable to everyone, and the main issue with us is creating a greater sense of awareness among the ASEAN people. And so I don't think there's been any steps that have made the peoples of ASEAN feel that
this is too much and our rights are being violated or we're being taken advantage of. I think so far it's all been managed quite well.
Good.
So I just want to share a bit of some insight on what transpired following the U.S. announcement of this withdrawal officially. So within the next 24 hours, Capital sent us some notes on where we stand in relation to TPP, being a member of TPP, got Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam here. We made it clear that yes, this happened. This is rather unfortunate that it happened, but we were firm in engaging and continuing to push for international trade. In fact, in March, under the stewardship of Chile government, they organized a get-together of the TPP ministers. We wanted to get a sense from the TPP members where they stand now that a member has decided to withdraw itself from the TPP. And my sense is that there is still interest. There is, in fact, Japan is over my discussions with my Japanese counterparts. I mentioned similar tone. Japan is still interested. We still want to engage in open trade. And so, in terms of resistance, I'm not sensing that. On another point mentioned by His Excellency Ambassador from Thailand about consensus building is our secret sauce. It is. It really is. We emphasize the importance of relationship. If you think about it, you mentioned about how we managed to establish ourselves, remain without constitution, without resorting to legal framework over the last 40 years. It's only the last 10 years that we decided, okay, you know what, we are going to be taken seriously. We need the legal framework. We need a constitution. We need to be at part and seen as a legal body. But before that, it was all based on relationship, and you can sense that if you come up, if you visit to our part of the world, and I'm sure Susan Gregson can confirm this, her presence in ASEAN is evolved around relationship. And the fact that we're able to engage North Korea in our discussions through the ARF is a sign of this secret recipe working. We're not there to impose foreign ideas, we're there to understand, engage, and positive engagement is important for us. I hope it's a secret recipe that transcends to not just political security, but as well as to the economic sphere.
Yeah. Well, but the reason I pose the question is that it's not so much that I don't see any signs of resistance within ASEAN countries myself, but you see in various Western countries not only signs of resistance at the popular level to free trade, but opposition to issues like the free movement of peoples, which is a contentious issue for the British, and one of the key reasons why the Brexit plan was triggered. I noted that in the explanation of ASEAN, you talked about the movement of skilled labor, whereas in the European Union the context is quite different. But perhaps as a supplementary, are you currently engaging the United States government to see how the new United States government might pull itself back from this TPP withdrawal and get back into the game?
Try to reason with the issue. Indonesia, for one thing, is not member of TPP. We are not part of TPP. Okay. I just like to build on what my colleague has mentioned earlier on that if you look the history of ASEAN, we try to convince the people that ASEAN bring benefit to them. When the discussion mentioned on 2003 about the 3 pillars of ASEAN, one leg of that missing is socio-cultural relations. In the early stage, when we talk about the visions of ASEAN, we only talk about political security and economic relations. Then something missing. Then the Philippines delegation at the time, why not to incorporate the socio-cultural cooperation? Then all the, because ASEAN is a leader driven forums, not bottom up, but it's a process coming from the top. So it's agreed that we additionally to put the lack of socio-cultural cooperation. The process is to make all ASEAN people get benefit from the ASEAN cooperation. We as Indonesia have the challenge to convince the population that with the ASEAN economic community taking place, then we are not become the victims of the economic cooperation. That's how we can see from the continued growth of our economy and the contribution of intra-ASEAN trade and investment cooperation. So this is the process of building awareness within the ASEAN community. That's it's not something that trigger populism within the ASEAN, but to convince the population that we gain benefit from the ASEAN corporations. Certainly the process of ASEAN itself not always adapt, the capacity to adapt to the challenge and the development. This global shift, what happened in the US at the moment, certainly become the preoccupation of us within the regions, because our majority of our major trading partners other than China is the US. So any development in the US will certainly affect us. I think not we try to engage the US, but the US also try to convince us with the roadshow by the foreign ministers, and also the vice president will soon traveling to the region to reconvince the ASEAN countries that they remain committed in terms of political security perspective, but also in terms of economic engagement. So it's something that we continue to observe. I cannot speak on TPP because we are not there yet. But in terms of ASEAN, ASEAN is continue to be the dynamic forces.
So my name is Ling, and I have a question regarding the issue of security. So my question is, does ASEAN only concerned with internal security issue, or it also concerned with countries that are outside the region? So to be specific, what step has been taken to prevent the further escalation in the conflict in the Southeast Asia Sea? South China Sea, sorry.
Well, I just like to take from recently there was a meeting of the foreign ministers in the Philippines in Boracay last February, and they did talk about the South China Sea, and they expressed we have agreed on the centrality of ASEAN. On us to maintain ASEAN centrality and unity, including having a collective and cohesive ASEAN response in addressing domestic and regional challenges. And of course, the position is on the South China Sea. Some of our ministers expressed concern over recent developments and escalation in the area, which may further raise tensions. But we affirm the importance of the need to enhance mutual trust and confidence, and we call them exercise of self-restraint in the conduct of activities. So and of course we would like to follow the rule of law, recognize the importance of the rule of law and UNCLOS, when we also underscore the importance of the full and effective implementation of the conduct of parties in the South China Sea in its entirety, and the efforts within the ASEAN-China process to complete the framework of the Code of Conduct in order to facilitate the early adoption of the Code of Conduct of the South China Sea. So if we look at it from the framework of ASEAN centrality.
If I may add to the interesting question, I'd like to say that first of all, the South China Sea is not an outside security issue. It's pretty much inside. It's right at the heart of Southeast Asia, South China Sea itself. So it's very much affect all of our security. Secondly, when we as ASEAN look at the problem of the South China Sea, we realize the fact that although there is a disputes among certain countries there over some territories, the problem of the South China Sea is not primarily territorial issues. It's about how to handle a dispute. And that well, relates to all of us. And it even relates to countries which is not a littoral state of the South China Sea, like Myanmar or Thailand itself. But we are all concerned about the South China Sea because we all want to see that a certain dispute is handled in a certain way up to international standard, meaning peacefully and being resolved under international law. So the process of building the consensus within ASEAN on the South China Sea is very much building the approach on how should the territorial disputes be handled in a region where the security of that particular region is going to have much effect or impact to all of us, not only in the region but also outside of the region.
Yeah, my name is Kai. I'm also a graduate student of University of Ottawa. Let's talk about security, and I just wonder, the excellencies, how you support outside initiative like free navigations from the US and Australia. Thank you. By the way, have you heard about the photo released by CSIS recently about the man-made island in South China Sea?
Do you mind just raising that question again? I didn't quite catch it, sorry.
Yeah, my question is just, do you support outside initiative from the US about the free navigations from the US or Australia? And also, I want to remind you about the photo released by CSIS about man-made island recently. Thank you.
I think, yeah, the question, I understand, is about China's man-made islands and build-ups, and I think support from ASEAN countries towards...
Yeah, about free navigations.
Right, okay.
Well, perhaps that maybe a colleague will add further, but it's been mentioned that the issue of South China Sea is a dispute evolving around some of the islands or the whole of the waters claimed by 9 dots China. But at first, if you look at the UNCLOS, it is the responsibility of lateral state to find a solution to the problem through negotiation among countries. Indonesia is not party to the conflict, but we are very much concerned about the issues of safety of navigations, the rights of people to use the sea as a passageway from point to point, regulated by under the international law. If we also see the application of international law, the question of artificial land is also a big question because you cannot apply the law of the sea into atoll or other composition. Is not regarded as an island that can sustain sustainable living of people in the island. So there are a lot of issues around the international law questions with regard to the South China Sea, but Indonesia is among the countries that promote safe passage and the rights of navigations in international waters. So this is the rights that all the countries, parties to the clauses adhere to the rights of free navigation. So it's not a matter of who proposed the principle, whether the US or Australia, but it's something that all countries, parties to the UNCLOS, really feel this is the rights of countries to use safely the international waters. While the issue of the claim itself can be dealt at a bilateral level among countries or within the multilateral forum, but ASEAN is not designed to deal with the conflicting claim in the South China Sea. But ASEAN tried to govern a relation among countries in order to have a peace and security in the South China Sea. That is why we come up with the declaration of conduct. The process that we are trying to have, the code of conduct itself is trying to govern relations at practical level. We've been trying to find the issues of how to deal with the unexpected encounter at seas, for instance. Hotline mechanisms. All these are something which we try to develop among ASEAN countries and China. So try to maintain the safety and security in the waters itself. So it's just a partner.
Maybe I can elaborate further on. His Excellency spoke about what we achieved, but I think what's also interesting is the process behind how we achieve those mechanisms. Mentioned earlier, we have dialogue partners where ASEAN engages with these dialogue countries on like a bilateral basis. So we have ASEAN, China, Australia, New Zealand, ASEAN, United States. In this context, or before I move further, maybe I should build my credibility on this issue. Prior to coming here, I was in the ASEAN department. I was in the ASEAN department for a good 5 years. I was there up to 2013 when Brunei was the chair of ASEAN. So I was heavily involved in witnessing, seeing, observing how we build confidence among not only bilaterally but also in a bigger, broader context. So the dialogue partner relationship is not there just so that diplomats can sit down. They build relations, they build confidence as an avenue where almost on a bilateral basis, these countries express their concerns on i.e., for example, South China Sea or issue of the Korean Peninsula. And having those forums available, it reassures each other where we're heading and what we're going to do about it. And then we also have a bigger platform called the ASEAN Regional Forum. And in this forum, again, we share with a bigger platform. And in this ARF context, it's even interesting because we have countries that rarely get the opportunity to be engaged in the region. We have Mongolia there, we have North Korea there mentioned, we have Timor-Leste, we have the country I can't recall now. But it's a forum where 27 countries sit down, express the concerns of the region, security, build confidence, and as a step forward, they want to build understanding, where these countries are heading. So I'd like to just add that, a point that the process how we achieve this mechanism is that's what we achieve. That's that process of bilaterally and through regional contexts like the ARF.
I think we'll stop here. We're out of time. I would like to thank ladies and gentlemen for being here for this very informative, interesting presentation of ASEAN and the priorities, the issues that ASEAN deals with, the way it deals with issues. Well, I think we learned about the ASEAN way and the confidence and trust building that it allows for. I would also like to thank Susan for organizing this event. Without her, we would not be here. And I would like to thank the people in the audience who were here and for your questions, for a very engaging discussion. Thank you very much.